George Kilpatrick, Inspiration for the Nation, celebrating people we feel good about. We're so pleased to be joined by Novelette Pierce. She's the Director of Mental Hygiene Services, and that's the CCSI on behalf of the Onondaga County Department of Children and Family Services. So glad to see Novelette, although I have to say I've known Novelette for a long, long, long time.
Long time, yeah.
Yes. So, Novelette, well, first of all, the CCSI, what does that piece mean?
Coordinated Care Service Incorporated. They do a lot of the hiring and employment for the county Department of Social Services and Department of Children and Family Services. So they do some of the hiring. They're stationed in Rochester, but most of the programs that I work on behalf of are with Onondaga County.
So one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on is because you train people in something that I have not heard of in this community, and I always like to find out when there are new things happening in the community. And this is called Mental Health First Aid, and this is for lay people like me to be able to offer mental health support to folk in the community. So tell me about this and how this mental health first aid came about. Do you give me a kit? Do I have to learn CPR? Talk to me.
Well, in your thinking, when you said, do I have to learn CPR? And so it's kind of based in the same thing. When you think about first aid or say CPR, it is for lay people to be able to assist someone in a crisis, right? Or if they see something is happening and they want to just keep it stable until they get connected to a professional. So when we think about mental health first aid, it's the same thing. It teaches lay people, community members to recognize when someone is having a mental health challenge, developing a mental health challenge, or having a crisis around mental health. And it gives them some things that they can look for and some ways that they can interact. And sometimes it means helping them connect to a professional, just like we do with first aid. And, you say new in this community, it is a national certified program. So it is offered in all 50 states. We've been doing it here in our area for about 10 years, a little over years. And there's different levels of the curriculum. So the adults who are assisting adults, and then there are adults who are assisting young people, specifically concentrating on the adolescents, like 12 to 18. And then just recently, they came out with a teen version of the program saying, hey, even young people can even help each other out. And it really concentrates on, hey, make sure that you listen to your teen, listen to your peers, and then connect them to an adult that cares. So that's mental health first aid is all about, assisting people through mental health, and that you don't have to be a professional to do that.
So in the community, we have heard, and we've heard of, I want to say a couple of teenagers recently committing suicide. And so something like this, what are the tools in this kit that might help us prevent suicide, for example?
Yeah, so it isn't a strictly suicide prevention program, but it is used towards suicide prevention. So it's actually on the SAMHSA
list of best practices.
Yes. Of helping to prevent suicide. And it's because we talk about that, suicide is coming out of nowhere. So you want to be able to start to recognize things early, especially with people. And this program teaches you that there are things that you can do to intervene. If you start to be able to notice things, and what can you say? How to start that conversation? And those are some steps that can be taken to help kind of to prevent some suicides in our communities.
All right, so I gotta be honest. I went on the website and I couldn't find who I was trying to help so that I could become trained, because I ain't working with seniors. And I just wanted to be able to help regular adult folks. And I could not find how to do that, because I saw teens, I saw workplace, I saw youth. I saw youth. I was like, well, what about seniors? Now, I don't know why I'm trying to act like I'm not one. and because I was like, well, I want seniors. Oh, I'm a senior, but I don't want
Yeah.
seniors.
Yeah, no, but that's not what you're looking for, right?
No.
It's just the
So
original curriculum of just adults. The reason you see those other like offshoots, you might see veterans, you
right,
might see
right.
first responders. It takes the regular first aid curriculum and says sometimes when you're working with a specific population, you have to think about a few other things.
Yeah.
But yes, all of those are based on the adult, the regular, and you can get just the regular adult class. So we do
Okay.
have um, Helio Health in our community offers the adult training,
Mhm.
open to community member, anyone who wants to attend. And so it's an 8-hour course,
Mhm.
usually offered, sometimes offered in one day, sometimes offered over 2 days. It's sometimes offered virtually, or it can be offered in person. And so Healy Health right now, if you're looking for the adult curriculum, is one way to get it.
And why do you why would you encourage people to consider taking this in the benefit to our community if they do?
Yeah, because when you think about it, everything we hear about health, the same way you take CPR first aid, no one says like, is this something I should take? I might need it one day. You are more likely to come into contact with someone who's having a mental health challenge than you are someone you're going to need to use your first aid or CPR with. It is affects, in a lifetime, it can affect 1 out of 2 um, of US adults. So it is something that is common when we're thinking about mental challenges, the whole gamut. Sometimes when people think mental health, they only think like the most severe, but we're teaching even as far as looking at, starting to develop first signs of depression, starting to develop first signs of anxiety. What do you do when you come across someone who's having a panic attack? That might happen to you right at the airport.
Right.
People getting on that airplane for the first time,
Mhm.
right? So these are skills that you can use, that you can take with you. And you know what? Even if someone isn't developing a diagnosis, even if they're just having a challenge in their life, you can use the skills to be supportive to someone. And so it's never going to hurt you to know these ways to be supportive. I say it helps build community. It helps build neighbors. So.
When people are going through the training, what are they most surprised about when they go through it?
Sometimes it's that they don't know much about disorders as they think they
Uh-huh.
do.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes we only hear what we hear on TV or in the news. And so getting to know a little bit more about what depression could look like. So thinking about, if we say depression isn't just what you see on those commercials, I'm so sad, it might be I'm so irritable, or it might be that I'm very angry. So just kind of learning a little bit about what the disorders look like, um, thinking about it and practicing, having hard conversations with people, because we do a practice of asking, how do you ask someone if they're thinking about suicide? And so we talk about that and what does that look like and what does that feel like? So sometimes that throws, people back a little bit, but it's all good skills that we want to feel comfortable with. A lot of times people have taken the class and they come back, and especially if you do it over 2 sessions, and people are like, I had conversations in between in the 2 classes, or I noticed that a young person was saying things, and I looked at it different than I would have looked at it before. I might have thought that they were just acting up in class and I wanted them in my class. Now I'm thinking there might be more going on with that. And so people like pick up new things to look at and pay attention to, and new ways to have conversations.
It sounds to me like we have to have a little bit more grace and compassion and also be a little bit more trauma informed, right? These are
Yes,
skills that are
definitely.
so useful, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we talk about risk factors, and trauma is one of the biggest risk factors. And even thinking about, if we're talking about the small traumas and we talk about adverse childhood experiences and things that you've gone through, and those things that can be trauma, all the way up to the big traumas, like the things we're experiencing in the world today. So what do you think our young people are feeling about knowing about school shootings and being scared to go to school? So you're going to
Mhm.
see some mental health challenges that come up from that. And so, yeah, we have to think about trauma as a risk factor as well as other things that are just happening in society.
I'm thinking that you probably can offer this to groups or people groups, especially. I'm thinking like if you're in the church, there's like or other groups that are involved in this work.
Yeah.
Yeah, or
Yes,
in
I've done it with church groups. I did it with a group of pastors, so it was good, and it doesn't have to. The good thing with mental health first aid, it doesn't have to go against anything that you've already learned in your professional setting. It just says, hey, here's some ways to listen. The steps of the action plan is about listening non-judgmentally. So how do we like put away some of those judgments that we typically have so that we can really hear what's going on with someone?
we're talking about not
And so yes, there's so many different groups that can be helpful with, right? To coaches, to the community, to the religious community, to parents. Parents is hard. When
mm-hmm.
we talk with parents because they don't want to, they're like, no, I don't want to hear that. Either they don't want to know that they're a person that they care about so is struggling in that way, or they think it's an indictment of their parenting in some way. And it's like, no, there's so many things that it can be caused by, but unless you can listen and not just talk to, and talk at, then you're not going to hear what's happening in that person's life.
Yeah, as I'm listening to you, I'm just thinking about how, people access services and how to make sure that we understand that we're not the clinician, we're
Right.
just someone who's identifying. And so
Yes.
language matters, right? Because even
Yeah.
how we talk about mental health, we call people crazy, we call people off the,
Oh
we
yeah.
use these sort of terms.
We use
And
very mental terms.
right, we use terms that are not flattering. I'm fresh off a call today. I was on a webinar. I think the group was barrier free living, but they just talked about, how do you offer this support? This is where I'm going with this, right? How do you offer this support and also help? How do you offer the support and while the individual maintains their agency? That's what I want to say, because this is what came up, right? Because I may want to help, but I also need to also have a respect and a boundary. How do you navigate that?
Yeah. So we're never telling anyone what they should do. We're helping discuss options with them about what could be helpful to them. So
Yeah.
that's one way that, they're still taking their choices. We never take choice away just because it's mental health, unless someone's a danger to themselves or another person. Other
Mm-hmm.
than that, you still have all your decision making that you had before. We also uh, want to tap into someone's strengths that they already have.
Mm-hmm.
If they're going through something negative in their life, it's probably not the first time they've gone through something negative in their life. How'd you get through it before? Let's
Mm-hmm.
pull on the coping mechanisms that you've used in the past. It's just that when you're in the middle of it, you can't think about, wait, I'm strong. I got through this before. I got through something like this before. I have people in my life that support me. And so we kind of do some reminders of who's your support system. What are
Mm-hmm.
your internal things that you have going for you that you need to pull on that you can't think about right now? And that's how we help, be another. We're not the clinician. And sometimes we say, sounds like it might be something a little bit bigger than you. Do you know there's professionals that you might could talk to that could be helpful? And
Yeah.
for us, just knowing, what those resources could be and saying, hey, giving someone a little nudge towards that, someone's more likely to get help if someone who's close to them suggested than if a stranger, suggested or a doctor suggested. If a loved one suggested, then they're like, oh, I'll think twice about it more than I would if someone else did. And so we say, have those conversations.
What was I thinking about as I was listening to you, and another question formed that I just lost. So I guess I should. Oh, I know what it was. So mental hygiene services. So what is that exactly?
So mental hygiene is just kind of meant to encompass more than the mental health, because we have some different departments. So we have mental health, we have substance use, and we have developmental disabilities. And so mental hygiene is just umbrella term that says we're going to incorporate all of that: mental health, substance use, and developmental disabilities.
I'm thinking, so here's my funny joke. Oh, so you're going to scrub my mind of all the impurities and negative thoughts. What else do you think we should know about mental health first aid and the availability of the training in this community and how people access it?
Yeah. So like I said, one of the easiest for general community members to get it is through Helio Health, through their training department.
Mm-hmm.
We are also working directly with schools to get instructors in the schools so that they can work with the school communities, their staff, their parents, their other support, their teachers. And so there are going to be multiple ways that you can do that through BOCES. We're our county is actually hosting a training for some of the schools have to say, hey, send someone from your district to be an instructor, and then they can come back out and train everyone in your school, in your school district. And so those are some of the ways. But for the general community right now, the easiest way is through Helio Health. Now, on the local website, the mentalhealthfirstaid.org, when I sent you the link to,
Yeah.
there is a list of anyone who in the area who's trained as an instructor, but I
Yeah.
don't think it's the most up-to-date list. That's one of the things
Okay.
I've been in kind of in contact with them. Like, how do we make sure that we have the up-to-date list? Because sometimes people just say, hey, we want someone to come in into my organization and all the staff here, or come into my church and do an open training here. And so reaching out to someone who's an instructor is another way that you can do that. And some listed on the mentalhealthfirstaid.org, but I am trying to find out ways that we can get a more updated list.
All right. Novelette Pierce, Director of Mental Hygiene Services in Onondaga County for CCSI. Well, say it, C. Did I do it right?
Coordinated Care Services on behalf of Onondaga County Department of Children and Family Services.
So good to see you. And I just recommend, I'm looking forward to, I'm going to inquire about whether I can take that training, not whether I can, but taking that training, because I want to be able to be helpful in our community. And I'm sure that you're recommending others consider doing it as well.
Yes, definitely.
Novelette Pierce, thank you so much. Appreciate you. And again, people can go to mentalhealthfirstaid.org.